Welcome to the next in our series of expert videos. I'm joined today by Keeley Edge from Key Appointments, and today's topic is all around recruitment. So Keeley, do you want to just give us a little introduction to yourself and tell us a bit about Key Appointments?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Keeley Edge. I'm from Key Appointments. We're a recruitment company based in Yorkshire. We help SME businesses to recruit the best people into their business. We've got a variety of services to suit different budgets, so that's why we really like helping SME businesses. I personally enjoy supporting manufacturing and distribution businesses with their sort of business support and supply chain and sales roles.
Perfect. So we're hopefully going to pick your brains a little bit about the recruitment market. So kind of to kick us off, I guess one thing that I've noticed in the HR world is that both during and since the pandemic, there seems to have been a real shortage of skills and talent across all industries really in the market, which has made the recruitment market really candidate driven. So as a professional recruiter doing this day in, day out, how have you seen this impact the businesses that you support?
Yeah, we've certainly, from us personally, we've certainly seen like a reduction in numbers of applications that we get through over the past sort of couple of years. I think Brexit obviously hasn't helped as well. So we haven't had, and with the pandemic, there was that not, I suppose, migration of people moving around the world that there has been, which brings, sort of new people into the market. So there's definitely more sectors that have been affected more than others. I think one of the things we have been finding quite a lot is the sort of the younger age people entering the workforce. Their skills, almost their soft skills, have not been as developed because they've been doing all lessons online, and and this includes graduates, not just school leavers. So we've certainly have seen those positions where we'd probably find that where you'd get an abundance of people applying for positions, I think there's been people leaving education and not necessarily going straight into the workforce. They're actually now, sort of taking their time to decide what they want to do. They're now doing their traveling and things. So I think there's definitely been a combination of things. And yeah, those roles which, sort of like the customer service and the administration roles, which are, attractive to those first time or second jobbers, we've found their skills definitely on the soft skills like business communication and things have been affected, I think, over the past couple of years. But I think also Brexit has been one of the big things for the distribution businesses, getting hold of supplies and things like that, which then comes down to, I think, people working in different countries as well. So we certainly have seen that being an impact to those businesses.
Yeah, it's been a very strange market when we've been involved in supporting clients with recruitment over the last couple of years. So obviously, if we think about moving into 2023, I mean, at the minute, there does appear, some might argue it's already here, but to have a recession looming, how does that typically affect a recruitment market? What do you expect for 2023?
Yeah, I think obviously there's two sides of it. Businesses obviously are going to be definitely more conscious of costs when it comes to recruiting in a recession, and sometimes but it can also affect people looking for work as well. So it's sometimes people think, oh, well, if there's a recession, there might be lots of redundancies, which means more people looking for work. And it sometimes can do that, but it can also have the opposite effect where people stay put in their roles. They have a fear of moving. So it can affect, again, if we're already struggling for candidates, those experienced people who may be thinking of a career move may think, well, I've been here 5 years, I'd rather stay put because I don't want to move and then be at risk of redundancy fairly early on if there is a recession. So it can stop movement. What we do find from recruitment as well, sometimes a lot of companies, which I think we found sort of after the first lockdown and things, people use temporary staff during a recession more because they want to test the water. So that's sometimes an option. And I do find that sometimes companies can be a little bit like they want the full 100% checklist of what they need in that job. They become more particular about what they're looking for. They want the exact match rather than being a bit flexibly, and that can sort of be sort of not be the best way to go, because everyone who is moving is looking for that development and growth. So so from a recruitment point of view, it can sort of certainly slow down recruitment, but it can also slow down the candidate market as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because you do think automatically if people potentially might scale back, that's going to flood the recruitment market with more candidates. But the reality is that that doesn't always happen that way.
No.
So yeah, interesting. And I think we're moving into a recession in what is a tricky market already. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how
Yeah,
that pans out.
we've got the lowest unemployment rates that we've ever had. So you sort of think, well, okay, if there are people being made redundant, is it going to have a massive effect? Will they be able to find another position still fairly easy within a similar business but in a separate, different sector? And as we know, with recessions, there are always going to be businesses that do well in recessions.
Of course.
So where what sometimes some people are, sort of cutting down and sort of letting people go because they're in a sector that is struggling, there's always going to be somebody who's benefiting as well.
Yeah, very true. So what would you say for the clients you recruit for currently, with all this going on in the markets, what's the biggest issue that you're experiencing when you're recruiting at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's salary expectations is one of the main thing. And I think there can be a bit of a disconnect between what employees want and what companies can realistically offer at the moment. And that's not just necessarily salary expectations. There still seems to be an expectation of a lot of people. They're used to home working and remote working. But a lot of jobs you can't remote work from. And also, if you are trying to develop staff and people, you need people in the office or people on site to train those new people coming through. So I think there can be, sort of definitely the salary expectations, and especially in that sort of almost starter salaries, the minimum wage has gone up. So therefore, people are coming, mentioned before about the sort of younger end of the market. I'm seeing sort of salary increases from those people who are, sort of graduates now looking for a minimum of 23, 25K as a minimum, whereas previously they'd probably start on 20 and develop. But that then pushes the salary costs of everybody else. So I think some candidates are going into jobs at higher salaries than they almost don't deserve at that moment. And then there's more expectation from an employer because they're paying that person higher. And then the person ends up being let go because they're not delivering. So I think there needs to be a real sort of balancing act between what companies can offer and also candidates being realistic. If this is their first position or they've been out of work for a while, is think about it as a stepping stone, I've got to get build these skills at the beginning to then sort of develop further down the line. So I think salary expectations and just expectations from in general from both sides and is sort of probably the biggest issue.
Yeah, and I think we did a survey with our client base fairly recently just to understand what are the things keeping them up at night, really at the minute, and salaries was a big hitter, obviously, with cost of living increases. So let alone, minimum wage that increased anyway, regardless of all this, then, we've been trying to help support them think of more creative ways to retain staff. But it is that expectations. And actually, we heard a lot that piece around flexible working, where actually, whilst that might have worked in the pandemic and they could be flexible, that's not conducive with building the right culture or training environment or development environment for their teams. Yet there is almost that expectation that people just want to sit at home and work now. So it is tricky to balance.
It's hard, isn't it? I think for companies and for people, and as sort of we'd look at it as well when you're looking at the sort of the way public transport and things like that works at the moment, and I can understand people not wanting to go into if they have been commuting, but and it's putting an hour on their journey each side. You can understand why people want to work from home because they can be probably more productive because they're actually haven't got that hour either side of as well. So there's lots of different things, isn't there, to look at. And I think actually, remote working fully, I think is hard to do. I think flexibility is what people want more than anything. If they've got families, if they've got, train times they're trying to stick to, I think just a little bit of flexibility from an employer is probably the best thing they can offer.
True. So much as it might seem like doom and gloom with a recession ahead of us, there are still lots of businesses that are planning for growth over the next year. So for those that are thinking about recruiting in 2023, just share with us what your top 3 tips are for those businesses.
Yeah, I think actually it's just the first one is actually falling on from what we've just actually mentioned there. And I think for companies to think flexibly, and, that's not just necessarily, about remote working. It is about sort of looking at a job description and thinking, well, okay, what are the real key skills we need in this person? And what other things we can train on, and things like systems and stuff. I always say when we get a position where they want somebody who's worked on a particular system, it's like, well, that's trainable really. If they've got the ability and the sort of attitude to learn and be able to learn, then those systems and processes are the things that you shouldn't be in your list to ask for. But yeah, so thinking of a job description of, okay, we want 70% of this filled. Don't just wait for the perfect person, because probably you'll never fill that position. And there's always got to be that. When we just mentioned there about the flexibility, if you had the perfect person but they wanted to work 4 days a week, can you make that work? Or they need to do the school pickups because they haven't got family nearby, but they could pick the laptop up at home. Everything is about trust, I think, from an employer and an employee. Yeah. But if you've got the right person, does it matter that they need to finish an hour early on one particular day? So thinking a little bit outside the box and thinking, and also probably around benefits as well. What we are noticing, it's not just about salary that people want. And when we were saying before about the sort of what people can work and things, I've found that when there's so many people looking for part-time positions to fit around family life, that you can often find that you're getting somebody at a really decent salary range if you're offering flexibility. So salary becomes less of an issue if you're offering more flexibility and benefits and things, and just looking at where sort of what your employees want when it comes to benefits. There's some things some people value holidays more than others. Could you have a buy and sell of holiday days and things like that? So just thinking a bit outside the box of what you can offer when it comes to benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I've noticed, just to kind of wrap up, and I suppose my tip to add to yours on this video today is the speed at which companies react through recruitment at the minute. So I think that in a difficult market where you're candidate driven, lots of businesses that we support, we've always had the luxury of time, because it's the candidates waiting on your word to progress through interviews and to be getting feedback. And where a recruitment process could have taken weeks, candidates simply aren't available for weeks. So we're finding that actually the speed of response needs to be so much faster now. So I think my tip to add to yours for going into 2023 would be, you need to think that speed of response. If you want to capture the best talent in 2023, you've got to act quickly, and show them also the reason why you're the right choice for them. Again, that candidate-driven market, turning the tables a little bit on the employers. So
I think, as you said there, then sometimes I have found that we've got, we found one really great candidate, and there's sometimes a bit, have you got anybody to compare them to? And it's like, well, I can, but they might not be as good. So why do you need somebody to compare them to? So there's always, sort of, if the person is right, they're right, for
Snap
you.
Them up.
Make that decision. Don't wait. Yeah, absolutely. And I think another one for me, just of a top tip for companies to think about, is definitely having a strong culture and values, that and get the the team involved in that to find out what their values are. We're finding a lot more when people are applying for jobs, especially if they're reading adverts and things, they want to hear not just a checklist of what the company wants from them. It's like, what's this company like to work for? They want to hear what the culture's like. They want to hear about the values of the company, you know, and the benefits and things like that. So they're all things that I would recommend if companies are advertising their own roles, is to really think about what they're portraying, and that message is to think about what people want to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And I think social media has been a great platform for that, hasn't it? The companies that do that well, that it's not about selling on social media, but actually about reinforcing their brand, the culture, and also have employees featuring on there, you know, saying why it's a great organisation to work for, because that's exactly the pond people fishing when they're looking for information on a business.
Definitely.
So perfect. Well, hopefully that's given everybody a bit of an insight into what is a really tricky market recruitment-wise at the minute, and also some very practical tips on how to approach that. As we always say with our experts, firstly, thank you for joining us, Keeley. For anybody that would like any advice in terms of recruitment support, of course, you can always contact the team here at Quest, and also Keeley's contact details will be on the slide at the end. Should you want to speak to her about the type of recruitment services they offer, which vary right from, you know, the basics of advertising, where you want to manage lots yourself, through to a fully managed, real quality recruitment services to make sure you get the right people. So on that note, thank you all for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next expert video shortly.
Thank you.